Hello everybody, welcome back to Everyman Prepping. I am Seth, and today we're going to go through a little bit about my reaction to the State of the Union address that happened last night with Ice Cream Grandpa. What did he say? Did he bring us all together, trying to form unity, or was he just trying to tear everything down? I think you know what happened, but I'll give you some of my reaction to what he said. I got some notes here, and then we're going to dig into a couple other news stories just really quick. But let's talk about this State of the Union. So, Joe got out there, Ice Cream Grandpa, and the first thing he starts in, this is the State of the Union. What is the state of our union? The Union of the United States of America, the 50 states. I think he would start talking about some domestic issues, maybe immigration, the border, drugs coming in, economy. No, we're going to start internationally because that's most important, because they would like to start World War III. So he starts off in Ukraine saying, we need help him. We need money, Ukraine. Give us money. And he's not going to bow down to Putin like other people. And he's the strong man, and Putin better watch out. So he tried to give a false bravado. That's kind of his thing. If you've known Biden for a while, that's what he likes to do. So he's out there, stumping for Ukraine money is the first thing. Then after that, he goes and he threatens the Supreme Court of the United States. He's talking about their overturning of Roe versus Wade. He's talking about women's, health choices, how they need to have it, and how the women are going to vote. And the Supreme Court, they need to watch out. So the further division, we start going, we basically threaten the Supreme Court. After that, what's he hit after that? He talks about the J6, January 6th, something happened 3 years ago. He's called it the darkest day in our history. It was horrible. He said, people in the Senate building, you were scared for your lives. All this, everybody's seen the videos by now. Was there some violence outside? Sure. Was there some destruction of property? Yes, but what the rest of it looked like? It looked like people taking a tour of the building like they were on a school trip or something. That's what it looked like for the most part, besides the other infractions. There's only one person killed during it from a weapon it wasn't from the protesters or anything like that. I think we all know, what happened there. But, basically, he's digging at them, going after political prisoners, all that great stuff. So another divisionary tactic he's using. So very divisive so far, nothing at all about what's going on with our State of the Union. So that's the first three things. Then he finally hits the economy a little bit. He started about, this is the greatest economy, greatest recovery. He's created so many jobs. He always kept saying my predecessor. He wouldn't say Trump's name at all because I don't think he wants to give him any press. And he's a little concerned. But my predecessor had a pandemic and lost all these jobs. Like it was his fault and he came up with it. But let's look at something really quick here. This is the jobs numbers. And they came out, just this morning, February 2024, 270,000 jobs you see here, at the bottom down here. But what this chart tells us is how they revise the numbers. They come out with great numbers all the time. Starting in, January 2023, you see here. Very high numbers, huge numbers. But they revise them every month after that, and they're always down. As you can see, this column on the right says the total's up. How many jobs numbers they reduced from the initial? You got some of the 45,000, 60,000. You got one over 100,000. But the biggest doozy of them all was just January of this year. They was revised down 124,000. That's more than a third revision down from 353,000. Everybody was so excited. Biden's out there trumping. In the speech last night, best economy ever. Everybody's doing great. Like again, out of touch, or if he's just trying to gaslight the people. There's a lot of people going to believe him. He's gaslighting everybody. But it's revised down to 229,000 from there. So, and the next month probably go lower. We're at 270,000 now. Jobs created, but you know what? Employment went up. And you know what those numbers are? Those are the jobs created part-time. Part-time numbers are skyrocketing up, and full-time jobs are going down. And all these new jobs are being taken. They're all by immigrants coming in. The American number of jobs for Americans living here are actually decreasing. Immigrant jobs are going over. So it's the great replacement. That's what's going on right now as well. So that's the next point he hit. Let's talk about how great it is. But you can see from that chart, we're not doing so well. And for all this out there, we know we're not doing so well. You go shopping, you buy stuff. You got tons of layoffs going on. You probably had your hours restricted, other things happening. So once again, don't be gaslit by the president trying to tell you how great everything is. Then he went into, let's tax the rich some more. We got to take all the money from the rich people because they're the most evil things on the planet. Let's get rid of them, get rid of all their money, because they're probably going to be good stewards with that money. After they tax them, I'm sure they're going to be really great stewards of the money and, everything to do with it. And as you can see back here, I got a partner today sitting on my chitting potatoes, which I find kind of odd. I don't know how that can be. comfortable at all as all, but that's where he's checking out to stay right now. But moving on from there, what do we have? Then he goes into, oh yeah, we're going to go into Gaza. I mentioned some posts of this on X and everything. We're going to build a temporary port in Gaza to deliver supplies. Gaza has a port, as far as I know. I don't know why we need a temporary one. He says no boots on the ground. We're just going to float this floating port out there, barge, whatever it is, and we're going to dock it and then drive ships across it or something. I don't know. I've been waiting for someone in the Navy or someone to tell me how this is going to work. I haven't really figured it out myself, but supposedly it's just going to be floating. We're not going to need to put any soldiers on the ground. Doesn't make any sense because I'm sure it's got to be stabilized. We got to put ships up next to it. I think it's going to be a huge target. We'll get hit by rockets. I don't know. Or a terrorist attack. Who knows? But, and after that, of course, we're probably just going to leave it behind like all the stuff we left in Afghanistan. But that's coming, We're going to chunk a ton of money into this and see what happens. And then lastly, let's see what he talked a lot about immigration after that. Finally got to immigration. And MTG out there she kept saying, say her name. And what she's talking about is Laken Riley, the Georgia nursing student that was killed out for a run. He has yet to address it. He's yet to say anything. So, he pulls out a button and says, I'm going to say her name. And of course he screws it up. He calls her Lincoln Riley. It says on the button her name, and he doesn't get that right. And then, he says, yes, she was killed by an illegal. But then he says, how many illegals kill people? So, he's like, well, legal Americans, you're out killing people. So what's the big deal if a couple of illegals kill people? That's his response. That is, I'm not going to say how bad that is to you, how out of touch, how showing you don't care about Americans, whatever it is. It's a horrible thing to say. And then he ends that, what he's talking about immigration with, but at the end, we're all Americans. No, we're not. There's a bunch of people here that are definitely not Americans. They're coming here illegally. They don't care about the United States. They don't care about Americans. They don't care about the Constitution. They're here to take what they want. Not all of them, of course. Some are wanting to be here because they need help and all that. But come on, the vast majority of them are middle-aged, fighting-aged men, not middle-aged, fighting-aged men, young, healthy, lean, looking men. Not too many families, not too many kids coming by for asylum. And, I don't think they give, rat's ass about the United States or America, and they're definitely not Americans, but Joe wants us all to believe they are. So that wraps that up. Basically, that whole State of the Union is a speech of division. He was ranting, he was yelling, he was, fired up on the GOP and Americans and the right and all that. So not looking good coming up for the election. Like I said, he didn't say Trump's name at all. Didn't want to mention it, but I put a post about this. I don't even know, are we going to make it to an election? Are we going to have an election? Is something going to happen? Because we're far enough away now and it's already getting bad, the tensions. It's only going to get more and more as we get closer. I don't know, write in the comments below what you think if we even make it to the election in November or something else going to happen in between. Because I just can't see, Trump's obviously going to be the Republican nominee. And, they impeached him twice, tried to get rid of him. 2020 election, I think we all know what happened, just so he couldn't be president again. You think that if it stays the status quo now, that they're going to let Trump back in to get into the presidency? I got to think something else is going to be planned. Something's going to happen. But that's just my thought. Put your thoughts down below. But let's move on to other stuff. Enough of that conspiracy stuff. Let's go to something else I want to talk about here. And you're going to see that, NATO is trying to get this war started as hard as they can. Oh, wait, I want to go to something else first. Let's go to Dmitry Medvedev. I forgot about it. I had this here. He gave his reaction to the State of the Union. He's our favorite, deputy chair of the Security Council in Russia. He loves to threaten nuclear war and all that, but he had a take on the State of the Union. And I posted this also saying, I don't know if he can refute anything he says. We're not a fan of Dmitry and we're not, a fan of Russia and all that, but we like to present both sides, look at it fairly, and let's see if we can refute anything that Dmitry said. So he said the State of the Union, Biden compared himself to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR. He said that's a so-so comparison. It's obviously not in Biden's favor. So I'm going to quote some stuff now, YouTube, so don't yell at me. I'm just going to quote Dmitry here. So he said, quote, first, even though Roosevelt was an infirm man in a wheelchair, he raised America from the Depression. Biden, on the other hand, is a mad, mentally disabled individual who set his mind on dragging humanity to hell. So, unquote, for that statement. That's his first point. So, you argue with that? What do you think? Yes or no? Write down below on his first point. What do you think about that? Second point, quote, second, Roosevelt, together with the Allies, including the USSR, was fighting for peace. He's talking about World War II, obviously, fighting Germany. Yet, Biden is actively and persistently trying to start World War III. So, unquote there. What do you think about that statement? Can you really argue that or not? Yes, Russia invaded Ukraine, started that war. Everybody's telling us that they want to start World War III, but as we're going to talk about here with NATO, the first article I went to is kind of looks like NATO wants to start World War III as well. Maybe it's a joint effort, but can't really refute the second point. Lastly, the third point, quote, third, Roosevelt was fighting against fascists, but Biden is fighting for them. He is the United States' disgrace, unquote. So, third point. I'm not sure we could argue too much on that one. So, that's Dmitry Medvedev's point of view on what happened last night. I think that you can have a lot of people in the United States kind of agreeing with him on this at least this post of his. Now let's go to what I was going to talk about. This is NATO trying to start World War III, basically. NATO fighter jets get the green light to carry nukes as tensions soar with Russia. So this is an F-35 here. And it's, and they're all throughout NATO, Poland, Finland, Sweden, they can all fly them, land them in bases there, UK, Germany. All of NATO can have an F-35. The United States can, some already have them. The United States can put them there. It doesn't matter. As you can see here, a NATO stealth fighter has been certified to carry nukes, including the terrifying B-61-12 thermonuclear gravity bomb as tensions between NATO and Russia hit a boiling point. So, this is them saying, if you have the capability to have an F-35 in your country, you're nuclear capable now. All we got to do is, fly a couple nukes there, drive them in, truck them in, and you have the delivery system now. So what's Putin going to say? Well, Finland's right on the border, Sweden just got accepted, Norway's there, Poland is right there, Germany. So, basically there's nukes right on the doorstep of Russia. Think about if Cuba had nuclear weapons, had fighter jets that could deploy nuclear weapons, and they were in Cuba, that close to the United States. That's how close these are going to be to Russia. So when people out there are saying, what does Russia have to worry about? It's it's NATO. They can have them there. Well, think about if Russia put them in Cuba. You think we'd have a problem with that? I think we would. So this is definitely going to raise tensions. Definitely push us towards further into that World War III, where one day Russia's going to feel like they have nothing left to do, but probably launch something. And they just talked about their Satan II, gigantic nuclear missile they put into service, where it could take out all of France with one Sarmat. All of France gone. So we're spiraling towards that direction. And then lastly, let's talk about this last story here. I know we're going on about 10 minutes or so. The U.S. Embassy in Russia issues a curiously timed alert over extremist attack. I found this curious too. It happened yesterday. They gave the embassy gave a 48-hour notice that there's an attack going to come, and watch out. So it says the embassy is monitoring reports that extremists have imminent plans to target large gatherings in Moscow, to include concerts, and U.S. citizens should be advised to avoid large gatherings over the next 48 hours. Like I said, this was given out yesterday. How does the U.S. have better intel on extremist terrorist attacks in Russia than we do in the United States? Things happen here. We don't hear about them until afterwards. Afterwards, you say, oh, the FBI knew about that. Oh, they're on the FBI list. So somehow we know better what's going on in Russia than we do in the United States. I find that interesting. The U.S., it says also here, the U.S. alert comes just hours after Russia's Federal Security Service, FSB, said it had thwarted a planned terrorist attack on a Moscow synagogue. After this attack, or this, the FSB foiled an attack, that's when the United States put out their warning. And it said the shooting had been planned from a cell from Afghan arm of the militant ISIS group, and went on to talk about that. So after that was put out by Russia, the U.S. Embassy put this out. This is the actual release from the U.S. Embassy, location Moscow, Russia. The embassy is monitoring reports that extremists have imminent plans to target large gatherings in Moscow, to include concerts, and you should leave and all that good stuff. So that's what's coming out of Russia. The U.S., how they know about it. We're talking false flag, black swan. I don't know, but the timing is curious with Russia doing what they have going on. I don't know. But what do you think down below as well? That's all I have for you right now. That's what I want to get to, in there. Continue doing what you're doing. You see my potatoes over here. It's going to be a big, probably in 2 weeks or so, will be a time to plant these. We got the seedlings in the barn going. Maybe I'll put up a picture of them if I have it in this video or the next. We'll be able to get some of the first cool weather vegetables out there. I have some broccoli, I have some bok choy, some other stuff like that going out, and then we'll be all, in into April, May, hit the other ones that are just starting now. So do that. Secure your own food source. Make sure your chickens are up and running if you have them. Make sure you have enough. They're producing well. We have time now. Time might be shortening every day with, this NATO trying to push war and everything, but you have time now to do what you need to do to stockpile your food, water, other supplies, everything else you might need. So just think about, make a priority list. What do I need to do? What's the first thing? What's the most important thing? Let's see if we can get 2-3 weeks of supplies that we can, live for if something happens. We can live that long. We can, last that long without any outside support. Something goes down in our area. So that's all I have for you now for today. Weekend's coming up. Let's get some good prepping work done. Also time to enjoy, the friends and family, your kids if you have them. Go outside if it's good enough weather, because y'all need a break from all this. I'm going to do the same thing. It's going to be a good weekend for me to get out there. Looks like we're going to have some good weather. Spend it outside. Great to get the sun on you, get the vitamin D going, be out with Mother Nature in the fresh air, clear the mind, all that great stuff. And until next time, keep your ear to the ground and head on a swivel.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.